Hi, welcome to the Professor Knits podcast. I'm Nikki and I'm the professor who knits. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, and dyeing yarn. And I think today is episode 5, and it's been a full month since my last episode. And my intention was to start podcasting every week, and that didn't happen. So I apologize if anybody was awaiting. I don't think anybody was awaiting my next episode. But anyways, there's been all sorts of action going on in my life that has prevented me from being consistent with my podcasting. I've had a lot of company joining me from Canada. My very, very best friend came to visit me. She drove down from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and we've been friends for 42 years. It's a very special friendship. I have my two best friends I've been friends with, one for 42 years and the other one for 37 years. So I'm very, very fortunate to have these sorts of lifelong friendships that will always be with me. So she came down to visit for a week and we had a great time, and then she left, and my mom came down from Canada with my auntie and they stayed for almost a week. And so we just had a great time visiting. But I didn't get a whole lot of knitting and a whole lot of fiber-related activities in. But it was worth the distraction, that's for sure. So let me just get right to it. I have a lot of things I want to talk about today and share. And I think what I'll do is start out with the fact that I now have an Etsy shop. So let's start with that. Yes, another podcaster is turning into an indie dyer. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not too sure what I'm doing yet in terms of whether or not I'm going to continue to dye yarn. But I decided to try my hand at it because I wanted to be able to tailor colors for projects. And I thought, well, dyeing yarn can't be that hard. And it really isn't. It's a pretty straightforward process. But what's very tricky is, of course, coming up with the right colors and trying to anticipate what a color is going to look like. It's not like mixing paint where you can immediately see what color you have before you paint with it. It's a little different with these liquid acid dyes. But I've had a really good time, and I've come up with a few colorways that I can't wait to knit, whether it's sweater quantities and a DK weight and a lot of fingering weight yarns. But I also came up with a lot of stuff that I just wasn't sure what I was doing, or I came up with a color that I didn't want, but they're perfectly lovely, beautiful. Well, to make a long story short, I now have more skeins than I know what to do with. So I'd like to just move them along and find them a nice home. I don't keep a big stash because I like to see nice yarn beyond needles and knitted. So I keep my personal stash quite low, and all of the yarn that I've recently dyed, it doesn't feel like mine, right? It feels like I need to move it along. I'll keep what I want, what I intended, and I'll move the rest along. So what that means is there are some skeins of yarn on my Etsy shop, The Professor Knits, that are heavily discounted. Not, it has nothing to do with the quality of the yarn or anything like that. It's just I need to get it moved out of my home. And so in some cases, it's a base that I don't plan on dyeing on again. Or I want to dye again, so I need to make room. So whatever, just go check it out. There's all sorts of things, and I'll show you a couple of skeins here, just to give you an idea. I don't know what my style is yet because I like all yarn. I like tonals, I like solids, I like variegation. I don't knit a whole lot with speckled yarn, but I like it, and I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to dye. So I'll just show you a few examples. There's something for everybody, and you can go check it out. If you see something you like, let me know. So for example, I did some practicing with some speckling. This is some very slight speckling variegated yarn. I've named this Merfolk, and I'm going to probably continue to do this one because I really like the greens and the blues. This is on a fingering weight 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. So it's very soft and smooshy, and it's a really nice base that I'll probably dye again. Merfolk. Another one that has, I think, a little bit more speckles. I'm very subtle with the speckles. This, which is my favorite, and I've dyed several skeins of this. It's on my 75 merino 25 nylon, so it's a really good sock weight sock yarn. I've called it black cherry cordial, or maybe just black cherry, I can't remember. And it's kind of this nice deep cherry burgundy with very subtle black and brown speckles throughout. So that one I just love, and I'm gonna dye up a lot more of this, and maybe even do a fingering weight sweater. But I have some extras that I've put on my Etsy shop if you're interested. I've also done some nice sort of springy variegated yarn. This one is some pinks and purples and lavender and white. And this one's on a DK single, 100% merino DK single. And not a lot of people like DK singles. It's not a very versatile yarn, right? Because it's a DK weight, so it's a little heavy for shawls. Or you could do shawls. Shawls and hats, I think, are the best for DK because it's a cozier yarn compared to a sock weight or a fingering weight. But because it's a single, it's going to pill. So you don't want to really do a garment or socks or mitts in it. But I really liked it. I love the way singles take up the dye. It's really a really good yarn. So I have lots of different DK singles. I've got a couple of this one. I don't think I've named this one yet. Maybe I won't name it. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't branded anything yet. This is all just for fun for me and just to move these things along. So variegation, it's kind of blowing out. I've got a very amateur setup here, so you'll have to excuse me. Yeah, really pretty. And then I have a lot of tonals and solids as well. This is on a 4-ply DK, 100% merino. This one I love, although what's interesting is that it's a little greener in real life. It looks more brown on my monitor, but this one I'm dyeing up. I dyed up a sweater's quantity for myself because I just love the color. And I think DK weight is the way to go when it comes to sweaters. I like worsted weight, but I just find sometimes it gets too heavy, so DK is my favorite. And then this nice contrasting color, it's a very deep, dark red, same DK 4-ply, 100% merino. So there's a couple of skeins of this as well, and there's lots of other stuff. And what I've done on my Etsy shop, like I said, is I've made a discounted section where I'm selling skeins really affordably priced, considering that they're hand dyed, simply to move them along. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with them. I like them. I just don't want to. I want to release them into the wild, so to speak. So yeah, check it out. I should also say don't think of this as a bait and switch. I'm not trying to build a viewership with my knitting podcast just so I could turn around and peddle my wares to you. That's not what I'm doing. But I think that, as a lot of you know, as I'm sure, especially if you watch a lot of different podcasters, which I do, a lot of people are you just end up going down the rabbit hole. And that's exactly what's happened with me. So what I will say is that I'm not going to be peddling my wares or pushing it on anybody. Whenever I talk about a yarn that is my own hand-dyed, I'll mention it, but I don't intend on being overly pushy about it. But I will say this, because I just opened my Etsy shop within the last couple of days, and one person has looked at it who wasn't my mother, I will offer a free mini skein to my first 10 customers. That's hoping I get 10 customers. And it doesn't matter if you buy a full price skein or a heavily discounted skein. It doesn't matter to me. But I will include a free mini skein of yarn, fingering weight yarn, to the first 10 customers to show my appreciation for helping to find these skeins a new home. So again, more than just what I showed you. So go check it out. All right, enough about that. Now let's move on to works in progress. No, finished objects. I've got 2 finished objects. First is my May sock. They're not, I've already been wearing them around the house, so I'm sorry they're not blocked. I need to get some sock blockers. They look so much better on display when they're on sock blockers. But it's just a basic vanilla sock that I knitted up for May. And it's just on a 75-25 sock yarn that I dyed myself. It was just a one of a kind. I just really like purple and yellow together, and so I decided, well, if I'm going to start dyeing yarn, I better start knitting with it to make sure it's good yarn, and it was. It was fun to work. It was really fun to work on. So yeah, just a basic vanilla sock with a traditional heel flap and gusset, and it's only my 4th sock, so I'm still learning how to knit socks, and I knitted on 2.25 millimeter Addy sock rockets, my favorite. Now, my second finished object is my JUJUY Joy, another shawl by Joji Locatelli, and I think it's JUJUY, maybe it's, I don't know. I'm so sorry, Joji, if I'm massacring the name of this shawl, but I loved knitting it. It was just so much fun. It was easy to knit, very easily memorized pattern, but also a lot of fun and a really interesting finished object with a lot of mesh and garter stitch. And I knit it in 50% alpaca, 50% tencel. I'll put the information across the bottom here. So it's very soft, and I think I'm a convert. I don't think I'm ever gonna, well, never say never, right? But I really like asymmetrical and crescent-shaped shawls. I've knit a few triangular-shaped shawls in the past, and they've been okay, but I find that trying to do sort of a wrap feel, or even just putting it around one's neck as more of a cowl or scarf, I feel like the crescent shapes and the asymmetrical shawls just hang nicer. What happens when I do this with a triangular shawl is I get sooner or later the weight does its thing, gravity does its thing, and the big triangle ends up hanging down the front, and I just feel like I'm wearing a huge bandana, a huge oversized bandana. And I just don't care for the way it feels or the way it looks. So I really think that I'm a convert to the asymmetrical and crescent-shaped shawl. I love it, I love it, I love it. I want it to be cold again just so I can wear it. And I just love the color combination and the picot bind off. So this is a joy. It's my JUJUY Joy. And I'm keeping it. I'm not giving this one away. It's mine. So, too hot to wear though. You know, alpaca, it's so warm, so I can't even get away with this on a cool night. I mean, right now we just got through a really warm spell, so right now it's only in the mid-70s, but it's still too warm because this is alpaca, or 50% alpaca, so it's just, I think it's got to be like 60 degrees or less. And you know, I'm Canadian, and I no longer know how to do, but I've been living in the US long enough now that I can no longer, almost 10 years, I can no longer do Celsius. And I used to think Fahrenheit makes no sense. Why doesn't everybody do Celsius? And now I see that actually Fahrenheit makes more sense. My American viewers will probably agree with me. But I guess it's just whatever you're used to. So those are my 2 finished objects, my vanilla socks and my JUJUY Joy, which I absolutely loved knitting. So works in progress. My June socks, I'll start out with, which is a self-striping yarn, my usual 2 at a time toe-up magic loop. And it was a gobstopper type self-striping yarn in the summer Sasquatch something or other. I can't remember what it was called, the colorway. Anyways, it's by Hanson Hand Dyes. She's a woman I met at the Mid-Plains Fiber Fair back in April, and I bought this sock yarn from her. And originally, I'm not too sure what I'm doing yet. This was a vanilla sock, again, the same pattern. And I don't know what's going on. It didn't work out with the color striping, but that's okay. I'm not overly concerned about it. But at least it was consistent on both socks. And I think this is going to be my last basic vanilla sock for a while. It's time for me to spread my wings and try some other types of socks. Whether it's even just contrasting toe heel cuff or something with a pattern or that afterthought heel I might try. But I really want to get more experience knitting socks, and I do enjoy knitting a vanilla sock. But clearly, for those of you who knit a lot of socks, and if you knit with self-striping yarn, what's the deal here? How do I get it to look normal, to be consistent, right? Do I need to do the afterthought heel? Inquiring minds need to know. And look, why read a book about it when I can just ask the interwebs and the hive mind? So if anybody could give me some, look, I read books for a living, okay? That's what I do every day. When I want to sit down and have some fun, I want YouTube hive mind to tell me what to do. So yeah, what do I do to avoid something like this happening with self-striping socks? So these are my June socks. I'm almost finished, which is a good thing because there's only a few days left in June. My other work in progress is another shawl, of course, and I just cast this on the other day, and I'm pretty excited about it. Usually I think about a project for a while before I cast it on, but this one I saw, I think it was Diary of a Yarn Snob. Yeah, I don't know her name. I've only watched her podcast a couple times. I just think she's kind of funny, the way her affect is entertaining. So I think I'll start watching her a little bit more. But she was knitting this, and it's the Sunshine Shawl by Sylvia McFadden, another Canadian Canadian designer. And it's a really beautiful construction, and I've started it with 3 contrasting colors, sort of a light whitish cream, a brown, and a yellow. And I'll tell you about the dyes in just a second. But if you look at her model, or the shawl that's in the pattern, it's got this beautiful blue and orange and gray, and I kind of wish I was doing those colors, but I just felt like a shawl that's called Sunshine Shawl needs to have a sunshine yellow in it, or some sort of yellow. So I'm really enjoying it so far. Pretty straightforward, lots of short rows, but it's a very basic short row. You just turn, there's no wrapping, there's no German short rows. So we'll see how that works out. It's knit on a very loose, I had some drop frames there, so hopefully this fixes the problem. It's very loosely knit. It's on a size 6 needle, which in retrospect I might have gone down. But so far so good. I mean, it's really fun. So the yarn is a combination of the white speckled yarn. So the light yarn is a yarn by Nicole over at Hugh Loco, and it's her Toadstool colorway. It's just a very subtle speckling of yellows, a little bit of orange, ochre, browns. So it's a very nice neutral color, but the colors that are speckled throughout happen to be the same as these two. Oh, and this is her Phyllis sock, right? I think it's 75% merino, 25% nylon. It's a nice yarn. Check out Nicole over at Hugh Loco. And then these are fingering weight, my own that I dyed. So this one is just a brown. I haven't named them. And this one is an ochre colorway. So it was just purely coincidental that I had this one and that I had dyed up these. And these were just one-offs. I had only done one of each. And I believe these are 100% BFL. High twist BFL, which is kind of weird for a fingering weight. I think BFL makes a better sweater yarn. So I decided to knit these three together. I thought it would be a really good summery sunshine shawl. So yeah, that's my shawl, my work in progress. So I usually have a sock, a shawl, and a garment on the go. And my garment's in the bag. It's my Lush cardigan, which I've shown in previous episodes. And I'm not going to pull it out because it's 99% finished. So the next time I podcast, it'll be a finished object. And the reason why is because all I need to do is put on buttons and do the button band that has the hole. So everything else is done except the one button band. And the reason why I haven't done it yet is because I haven't purchased any buttons. So rather than pull it out in its 99% completed status, I'll just wait and use it as a finished object next time. But it's been a real delight to knit. So I'll be wearing it in the next podcast. So now let's move on to stash enhancements, because when I sat down to do this podcast, there was a knock on the door, and some yarn that I just ordered was just delivered. So I thought I would wait and open it on camera. Now, for those of you who watch the Fruity Knitting podcast with Andrea and Andrew, you know how wonderful that podcast is. Well, if you're a patron, which I am, you sometimes get these little bonus videos that they send out just to their patrons. So it's worth being a patron, okay, on their Patreon account. That's some hard work. I do a pretty low budget amateur hour podcast, and it's still several hours that it takes to do these things, especially if you, which is what I do. I'll sometimes, I think this is the third time I've filmed this video because the first two versions were such a mess that I decided just to redo it all. I don't think Andrew and Andrea do a whole lot of retaping, but they put in so much work, especially Andrea. So anyways, to make a long story short, become a patron. If you're a patron, you know that just the other day, they sent out a bonus video with Andrea opening up a parcel that she got of yarn. So I'm kind of ripping them off. But you'll only know that if you're a patron. So that's the best podcast out there, I think, in terms of production quality and content, and really nice, sort of easy people to watch. I watch them for knitting content because she's my knitting guru. I watch the Grocery Girls for fun, right? Because they're so hilarious. I watch all sorts of other ones too, but those are sort of the two that I like the most for different reasons. So anyways, I'm opening it up here. I'm excited. I hope I'm not disappointed on camera. Oh, I don't think I'm disappointed. So what I ordered from yarn.com or webs is some linen. Oh, this is the Louette Euroflax. So for those of you who like a good deal, like me, I like to support hand-spun indie dyers, quality yarn, but sometimes I also like just commercial yarn as well. So I'm always on yarn.com looking for deals, and they've discounted their sport weight Euroflax, Louette Euroflax. So it's 100% wet spun linen. Of course, I have to smell it, right? It smells good. In their navy colorway. So I've got 4 skeins. Oh my goodness, it is really nice. I love it. Thank goodness, thank goodness. So I want to knit. I've never knit with linen before, and I can see why, because you pick it up and it feels like really hard and crunchy. But I've been warned, it softens out. I want to knit myself a nice summer tank top in this beautiful navy color, because I think navy's a really good color. Is it getting, I'm sorry, oh, there. You see that? It's almost a purple. But I think navy's a great summer color with like a pair of white pants or white shorts or a white tank top underneath. So beautiful. I've got 4 skeins. It's machine washable and dryable. And it was discounted down to $13.99 a skein. Regular $26, I think. And they had lots of colors when I ordered. So anyways, this is so excited. Oh, and look at a wine voucher. Oh, they always do this. They send these wine vouchers. And I'm a wino. But I've never used it because it's really expensive wine. And look at, I just drink out of a box of wine. Although sometimes when my husband takes me out for dinner, we'll get a really good bottle of wine. But otherwise, at home, we just drink out of the box. So yeah, claim within 30 days. If anybody wants my wine voucher, let me know. Maybe it's non-transferable. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. How exciting. I can't wait. I don't know which tank top I'm going to do yet. Maybe when I post this, I will have decided, and I'll put a picture of my planned project. But yeah, can't wait. Okay, so that's it for stash acquisitions because I've been on a yarn diet, trying to knit up my stash. Okay, so let's move on to the spinning. Oh, there are some acquisitions in my spinning because Tour de Fleece is coming up. So I went to my local yarn shop and bought a ton of her roving. And she only, for roving, she only stocks Anzula, which is fine. I love Anzula. It's a beautiful, but it's kind of expensive. But it's beautiful. I think it's a Canadian company. So I went and I bought a bunch of roving from her to prepare for Tour de Fleece in July. But I couldn't wait, so I've already spun up a bunch. So let me show you what's left that I still have to spin up. It's not going to get me to Tour de Fleece. I'll probably have this spun up in the next few days. But I got 2 tops of the natural Corriedale, 8 ounces altogether in this beautiful brown. Not as soft as merino, but I can't wait. I have not yet spun Corriedale, so I'm looking forward to that. So it's, like I said, it's Anzula. I don't know. Everybody's always so concerned. Whatever, right? You can see it. I don't do show notes because I'm way too lazy. But so if you want anything specific, just message me. And then I had 2 4-ounce tops of some merino, which I've already spun up, which I'll show you in just a second. And then I treated myself with some Baby Llama, again, Anzula. I got some white natural and then some, it says natural on here, but I think it's been dyed because there is a colorway called Baby Llama Cinnamon. So I don't know if this is just a natural one that they've named cinnamon or if they dyed it. Oh, these were pretty expensive by my standards, but I'm going to have fun spinning these. I had bought 6 tops and I've only got 4 left. So the other 2 were some pre-dyed pink 100% merino that I've already spun and plied. Now this is very exciting. I've got more on the spindles, as you can see back there. I've got some bobbins full, and I've got some more on the wheel itself. But it's 100% merino, pre-dyed, and this was my first time plying yarn. And I don't know what took me so long. Why I didn't ply sooner? Because I had spun this stuff. This was my 30% silk, 70% merino that I had bought at a fiber fair in April, and I love the way it turned out. It's like this silvery blue. And I'd spun it quite thick, thinking, oh, why would I don't want to, I love it single plied, I'm never going to ply. And I decided to try plying. Oh, and I loved the way it turned out because it balances it out. There's no twist. You see what I'm saying? For those of you who spin, you know how easy it is to over twist. And you don't want to under twist, right? Because you don't want your yarn to fall apart. But this just balanced it out perfectly. I'm really, really pleased with this. It's still a little damp. It's all about the smell of these things, right? Yeah. So it's got some purples and some pinks. It's beautiful. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more spinning because I think I love spinning almost as much as I love knitting. It's different. Oh, and I had also spun up some BFL white, so I have to figure out what I'm going to do with this. I think I might ply it with something else to get something blended. But again, I've got all sorts of bobbins filled up full of spun yarn. So yeah, I think I might even put this up on my Etsy shop. We'll see, because I think it's some good quality stuff. I think that might be it. So thanks for sticking around as I rambled along here. And I'm hoping everybody has a great summer and is enjoying their summer. I know that I think you can really tell the difference between diehard knitters and those who aren't diehard knitters as what kind of knitting, how much and what kind of knitting they do in the summer. If you're still knitting those bulky weight sweaters and shawls and socks and you name it all summer, then you are like me. You are my people. You are just as diehard. But if you just don't knit during the summer, that's fine too. I don't understand you, but I accept you. Anyways, have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.